It's still loading. Who's excited? Give me some thumbs up.
I'm excited.
Well, Chaim, you're excited about everything. It's not hard to get you excited.
No, that's true. That's true. But this may actually possibly be my favorite class that we're about to give. Might actually be.
Okay, we are live. So let me mute everybody. Let me get Chaim unmuted. Oops, how do we do? Uh-oh. Okay, Chaim's unmuted.
Fantastic.
All right. This is great. Welcome, everybody. Great to have everyone on Thursday night, end of the week, and we feel Shabbos coming. And in order that we get in that great mood for Shabbos, we are going to prepare for this week's Shabbos with one of my personal favorite, if not my favorite, the Maggid of Hollywood, Chaim Hirsch. Put your hands together for Chaim, everybody.
Thank you, Rabbi Laredo.
And I was very, very, very excited after last week's Shabbos. I don't know if everyone can share. Maybe at the end of the class, everyone will share their thoughts. Last week's Shabbat meal, and especially Friday night, with all that singing that we spoke about and all that preparation and the blessings and all those beautiful things, really was a memorable one for my family. I hope it was for yours as well. And I kind of spoke about this with you, Chaim. Right after that, there was kind of like a cliffhanger. It's like so much happened for the first 10 minutes, maybe even 15 minutes. And then, we got into that first question, that bomb that we drop right when everyone's hands are quiet after we eat the bread. And all of that, and then it's kind of like a fall. Kind of left us hanging. So that's what tonight, correct me if I'm wrong, Chaim, that's what tonight we're going to do. We're going to fill that void. We're going to make sure that we are on cloud 9 the whole way through, from the beginning of the meal to the end of the meal.
Absolutely. Rabbi Laredo, you hit it spot on. Last week was really just the teaser and the introduction, to be very candid. Tonight is going to be an arsenal, hopefully, I hope, an arsenal of weaponry, of positive weaponry that you're going to be able to pull out during the meal and then during dessert and benching, and all the way down to having the kids help clean the table when you're done.
Which is the most important, right? That's the most important.
There you go. Exactly. Certain manners and all that. So
I want to mention tonight we have 2 sponsors, and we want to thank our sponsors as always. We have Chaim and Davinia Shukrun from Montreal. That's my wife's cousin, in memory of Davinia's grandfather, David Ben Miriam, whose yahrzeit was this past week, the 11th of Sivan. Meme Suzanne, my wife's grandmother, is also on with us, and that was her father. So that would make this my wife's great grandfather. So may David Ben Miriam have his neshama have an aliyah in honor and merit of the Torah study that we're studying this evening. Amen. Second sponsor is a very good friend of Chaim Hirsch, Ari Zeltzer. He wants to dedicate this class in honor of his dear friend, the Maggid of Hollywood, Chaim Hirsch, as well as to, and I'm using his words, okay? I'm using his words. Okay. As well as to his wife, Samantha, their entire family, to grow in their avodas Hashem, to serve Hashem with love, continue to inspire the community, to learn Torah, and to perform acts of chesed. That's Ari's message to you, Chaim, and to everyone tonight.
Thank you,
Ari.
So
thank you to our sponsors, and we are ready to jump into tonight's great things. Okay, so Chaim, super quick recap. We sang to the angels, we sang to our wife, we did the kiddush, we made the blessings for the kids, we broke the hamotzi, and we asked our bomb question. We started a very good Torah conversation. We have, as we spoke about, set this meal up for success.
Correct.
How do we continue? I hope we don't only serve bread on Shabbos. We have a lot more to serve. How do we continue with the food, not only for our tummies, but for our soul and emotions of our children, allowing this to be the best Shabbos experience?
Fantastic, Rabbi Laredo. And by the way, last week you asked me a question about my cufflinks, and I would be remiss if I didn't do it this week. So for everybody that was wondering last week, I don't know if you could see it on the camera, if it's coming through, it's the smiley emoji cufflinks. And I got those a few years ago, and I wear them on Shabbos. As Rabbi Laredo asked me and prompted me last week, I wasn't wearing them. I wanted everybody to appreciate. I like to wear those on Shabbos so my children understand, and I understand, forget my children, myself, to get myself in a good mood. Shabbos is about being happy. If you're not happy, you've got to make yourself happy. You got to do something to get yourself in that Shabbos mood, because and we're going to see so much tonight, that it really depends on you as the parent, the father, the mother, whoever is leading this, it really depends on you. So that's just, something cute, might be hokey, might be, it depends on how you look at it, but do something of that nature. And by the way, the children pick up on little things like that.
And I want to tell you how much they pick up on it. Last week, in your honor, I wore my smiley emoji cufflinks, the ones that you bought me. And they right away spotted it. As soon as I came home from shul, I took off my jacket. They saw it right away. Yep. And they said, those are Rabbi Hirsch's smiley, happy Shabbos cufflinks. And when I saw you Saturday morning, I was waving to you. I didn't tell you. I was waving to you, pointing to my cufflinks. It looked like I was pointing to my watch. I was pointing to my cufflinks to tell you this Shabbos is the happiest Shabbos.
Fantastic. So we joke about it, but the reality is it's actually not a joke. Anything you can do that's a shtick, that's something to show you're in a good mood, you're happy that it's Shabbos, and legitimately, sincerely feel that way, your children will pick up on it. So that leads us now into the main portion of the meal. Couple of caveats before we get into the games and what to do, because again, tonight is going to be very practical, very hands-on. It's going to come in rapid fire. I warn everybody ahead of time. It's coming in rapid fire, and because of that, you may going to want to watch the link over again as the recording will be had. Couple of thoughts.
Chaim, maybe now would be a good time to tell everybody, even you're going to be rapid fire, you're going to be like bulldozering us with tons of information. We have a special prepared by Chaim, a very special gift for everyone that is joining. We wish we could hand it to you. We wish we could hand a whole pad of it to you, but stay tuned till the end of the class. Everybody is a winner to this tonight. We're not doing any raffle tonight. Everybody is a winner tonight. They're going to have something very special. So don't even bother taking notes. If you'd like to, that's great. But we have something special for you. Let's go, Chaim.
Yes. Yeah. Thank you, Rabbi Laredo. And yes, we put something together that hopefully will be, I hope, a game changer for you for your Shabbos table, or at least a facilitator to help you have a game changer for your Shabbos table. So that being said, you sit down at the meal. If you've got multiple children, Kanai Nahara like myself, it can become out of control very quickly if you let it. If everybody starts eating as soon as they get their food, it can become hefker. It can get lost very quickly. So we started a rule in my house, and that is that everybody waits. You're allowed to take your food, but nobody starts eating your food before Bubby, Zadie, mommy, and daddy all have their food and are all ready to go, because that is when you have their captured attention and you can really go. And it really sets the tone for discipline, for respect, and it's just a great environment and a habit to get into, to say where everybody's allowed to take food, but nobody's allowed to start eating the food until the elders, so to speak, or the parents or the Bubby and the Zadie are ready to go. Now, that being said, if you don't plan something, we can all attest. It's happened to all of us, and I will speak for myself, but it happens to everybody. If nothing is planned, it's very easy for the table to turn into something, God forbid, negative, whether it's lashon hara or negativity or criticism, or it just naturally goes there. So therefore, you have to find something positive to bring to the table, no pun intended, or maybe pun intended. Bring something to the table that you have a plan. Now, don't be a dictator. It doesn't have to go the way exactly like this, but at least have a direction of where to go. If you're into it, everybody else is going to be into it. We said it last time, it's worth repeating. Don't be a policeman, be a salesman. Don't force anything. It has to be pleasant. It has to be beautiful. And finally, before we get into the actual practicality, just everybody needs to remember, you as the leader of the table, again, father, mother, Bubby, Zadie, whoever it is, are the quarterback. That doesn't mean that you speak the whole time. And in fact, if you are doing more talking than listening at the Shabbos table, I would propose to you, you're probably doing something wrong. Your job is to get everybody else involved. If you get the children talking, you get the guests talking, you get the Bobby and the Zadie, you get everybody talking and interacting. That's in a positive way. That's the goal. That's what you want. So if you are the quarterback, and can you hear me, Rabbi Laredo? Is it okay? Okay, I was probably shaking the table. There you go. If you are envisioning yourself as the quarterback, as the person who's not speaking the whole time, but facilitating, now you've got the proper mind frame to get into things. Okay, that being said, I am going to start throwing out at everybody idea after idea after idea of things to do. It's extremely important you do not do all of these at the same Shabbos table. These are meant to be a Rolodex, an arsenal, a weaponry for where you can choose one per week or one per meal. This is not meant to be all of these things must be done or should be done at one Shabbos table. In fact, it's much better. There are so many advantages to doing them one at a time, 1 week at a time, because nobody gets bored of them. There's a new game, there's a new idea, there's new something every week. It changes the dynamic, yet it keeps everybody involved in an interesting, different way. That's caveat one. Caveat two, the prep time for each of these will vary. Rabbi Laredo and I were talking about it. Some of the prep time is literally 5 minutes. Some of the prep time is literally 30 minutes. So you're not going to do each one of these every week. So find a week that you've got more time during the week that you can do a 30-minute prep, and then you do that one. And on the week that you know it's busy, back-to-back meetings, simchas, things going on all of the time, then you pull out one of them that you basically requires no time whatsoever or very minimal time. So that being said, keep those little caveats in mind as we go through it. And of course, they're going to vary by age range. You've got adult children, you've got young children. And how do you keep everybody active and involved? Idea number one, or game number one, is the very classic Sfarim by Rav Zilberstein. They've got multiple versions, multiple copies and volumes of them. One of my personal favorite is this. What if? What if volume 1? What if volume 2? That's this one right here. And what if volume 3? And I think I don't have all of them. I think they even have what if for Yom Tovim. I'll tell you what they are in 1 second. That's Art Scroll. Feldheim has got almost an identical series called V'Harevna, Volume 1, Volume 2, Volume 3, Volume 4. They're all based, both of these series are based on the shiurim of Rav Yitzchak Zilberstein, Shlita, who is one of the poskim in the Gedolei Ador of this generation, biggest rabbis of this generation. And it goes through interesting shilas, interesting questions on the weekly parsha, but from a halachic standpoint. So I'm going to give you an example, okay? And by the way, there is a massive hashgacha pratis involved with this example, but I'm going to tell you the example first. Here's a situation that I would pose at the Shabbos table. And in fact, I actually used this last week because it was on last week's parsha, but it doesn't even matter. You can open to any random page. Here's the question. A person buys a hat, and the cashier turns out to be a thief who is an imposter and simply sitting as the cash register. He was sitting at the cash register pretending to be the teller and the man taking the receipt, taking the money, but he was really a thief. So now this poor kid, this poor person who went to go pay for the item, gets to the end of the store and he's walking out, and the big burly guy says, the muscle man there says, "Hey kid, where's your receipt?" And he says, "What are you talking about? I bought it from that man over there." And they go and they look back and they look at the videotape because the cashier guy said he wasn't there. And it turns out it was some thief. So does the boy have to pay for the hat that he bought again, or is he exempt from it? It creates a very interesting scenario, and there's a thief involved, and there's a bad guy, and there's a shaila, and he did it in good faith. And now you open it up to the table and you ask everybody, what are all of your opinions? Now, obviously, you should be reading this not at the table. You should be reading it ahead of time. They're only about 2 pages, 3 pages long each. And maybe not every nook and cranny that they get into in the Sefer do you necessarily need to go through. Because remember, the goal of this is not to make everybody an expert in halacha or parsha. The goal of this is to facilitate interesting conversation. So I opened up that question. I start with that. And now everybody has something to say. My wife has something to say. It's always very intelligent. Samantha, you see, I mentioned something very positive there. And then you've got all of the kids who are interested. Why? Because it's a thief. It's a bad guy. So you find one of these questions that's very interesting. You know how long this takes to prepare? Not more than 10 minutes max. But what you've done is you sparked a very interesting discussion, a very interesting conversation, and then you share your final thoughts at the end of, sharing with them what basically the psak and what the decision is. Now, the reason I said this was massive hashgacha pratis, this was on last week's parsha. When I was preparing this for last week, I thought I was going to say it on the class last week. I was writing my notes together and I said, my gosh, how do I summarize this? I said, it's like a page and a half. I don't have time to summarize this. I said, let me look at the flap of the Sefer. Maybe I could just pick one of those. And I'm not kidding. Everybody can look this up. It's number 2 on there. I will read it to you. It says, and I actually started reading it before on purpose. A person buys a hat and the cashier turns out to be a thief who simply sat at the cash register. Does he have to pay the store again? Massive hashgacha pratis that Hashem said to me, you know what, Chaim, you're trying to prepare and you don't have enough time. I'm going to make it very easy for you. The exact shaila, literally the exact shaila that I looked up to prepare for this class is literally there in notation format. Unbelievable hashgacha.
That is unbelievable. Unbelievable.
Amazing. Look how much Hashem loves me, right? That's the point. Now, I'm not just saying this gratuitously. The reason I'm actually telling you the hashgacha pratis story is because that's going to come into play at dessert. We'll save this. We're going to clip that and we're going to save it for dessert. Message from game number 1 is find an interesting shaila, an interesting provocative question based in either the parsha or halacha, could be on anything. Pose that question to everybody and then go around the table and say, Samantha, what do you think? Bobby, what do you think? Zadie, what do you think? Ari Zeltzer, what do you think? And the children, Gavi, Rachel, Don, what do you think? And get everybody's input. You're the quarterback. You're getting them to talk. That is the dilemma, the shaila of the week. You've got multiple volumes. You will never run out of material. That's game 1.
So Chaim, on that, I wanted to mention something.
Yep.
Specifically in V'Ha'arevna and in What If also, I believe. Fascinating books. I know V'Ha'arevna is also in Hebrew for anyone who prefers Hebrew. I think even What If it is in Hebrew as well. They're so good, these books, and I highly, highly recommend them. Like Chaim said, they have multiple volumes of them that they have in the question. Most of the time, they have the different rebuttals. Like the questions posed, and then there could be 1, 2, 3, 4 different opinions. It may not be that they're even right, but just like, you have 3, 5 kids around the table and or other guests, and everybody says one thing. And so this way you don't get caught off guard. You could say, yeah, that's one way to look at it, and that's one way to look at it. And a lot of that is sometimes inside the book, very, very well written, well explained. And this way, and to kind of massage and make everyone feel good, even though they may not be given the right answer, but to acknowledge them for their try, for their guess, and then presenting the real answer. So that's one thing I wanted to say. Absolutely amazing, right, Chaim? You see that over there, right?
And Rabbi Laredo, I'm so glad you mentioned it, because nobody should ever get caught up on who got the right answer, the wrong answer. Praise their thinking, especially the children. Wow, Rachel, Gavi, Donnie, I love that thought process. The way you're thinking is so logical, is so interesting. Wow, that is definitely one way to look at it. So Rabbi Laredo, great point. Don't focus on the result. You're focusing on the thought process, the facilitation, making them feel good, making everybody, adults included, feel good about their contributions to the table.
So that's one thing I wanted to say, and we'll definitely share a lot more books as we go along, but there's one that I think is appropriate for me to share now. And take a look at this. ArtScroll put this out not too long ago. It's 101 engaging questions. It's a very small book. There's literally 101 questions. This is, as Chaim would say, an arsenal, a nuclear weapon that will engage that will cause those at your table to engage in a positive and amazing way. I think there's 4 or 5 sections over here. It's just real good trivia on our Torah, a whole section on who said. So there's all these quotes from our Torah, who said it, and then on the back side of this other side of the page, it says who said it with its source, and then who's this, and it tells you something, gives you something. Who is that person? Or count this. How many times in the Torah does it speak about someone kissing someone else? Or how many times in the Torah does it refer to stars? And so on and so forth. All these really amazing. Source it. Where's the first time ever you found something? So this is a must. It's quick. It's easy. It's good for all levels, as advanced as you may be, to see how much you really know, or as a beginner to learn all of these automatic and really fun concepts. We're going to send you the link to this along with everything else we'll speak about. This is one of my must-haves.
Excellent. So glad you brought it up. So on to number 2, idea number 2. I call it finish the ending of the story. By the way, all of these things that I'm sharing with you have been tested at the Hirsch household for many weeks, many years. So they do work for my family. I'm not suggesting they will work for everybody's family, but I am sharing with you, we, Baruch Hashem, have had success with virtually all of them. I am not sharing with you the ones that we have experimented with and have not gone as well as I have hoped. So these have all been tested. This next one is called Finish the Ending of the Story. It's one of my personal favorites. It's one of my family's favorites. Find an inspirational story. They are very easy to come by these days. There is a plethora of stories out there, true stories. And if you need any help getting source material for those stories, either Rabbi Laredo or myself will be more than happy to help you get this arsenal of stories for free, literally weekly emails. The key is get a great story. Then make sure it's got an impactful ending, either a surprise ending or something that or for sure is going to have some moral, beautiful Musar lesson. Why? Because you're going to start the story and then you're going to stop and you're going to say, everybody, guess the ending of the story. I'll give you an example, one that I used 2 weeks ago. I'll very quickly, because remember, the goal is not for you to talk. The goal is for you to start it and get everybody else talking. So here's how I started. I said there was a woman who unfortunately didn't have a lot of money. True story. She had a baby stroller. She went to the store to buy some clothing, and in the process of walking through the aisles, she had to take the baby out of the stroller, leaving the stroller back behind because she couldn't weave her way through the store. When she gets back, lo and behold, the stroller is gone. Somebody steals it. And unfortunately, this woman who doesn't have much money is sobbing, is crying because she doesn't even have the money to buy a new stroller. A complete stranger is standing there, overhears what's going on. The woman frantically looking for the stroller. And she says, ma'am, is there anything I can do to help you? She says, I just got to find the stroller. I need the stroller. And so the stranger says to the woman, she says, ma'am, I happen to have an extra stroller. Would you like me? You can come with me to my house and I'll give it to you. And the woman, the poor woman, of course, being so prideful, said, no, I don't need, your charity. She was embarrassed by it. And so at this point, I will tell everybody, the stranger, the woman who wanted to give the lady the stroller, found a way to do it without her being embarrassed. How did she do it? How did she perform that act of chesed? Now I open it up. You should hear the creative ideas that my young children come up with. Well, maybe she snuck here and snuck there, and they come up with all of these ideas. And you go around the table. What does it get everybody doing? They're all thinking about ways to perform a chesed for somebody else in a way that doesn't embarrass them. Now, I can't think of any better lesson to teach our children in this day and age of how to do a chesed authentically, lishma, for altruistic reasons, simply in a way that doesn't embarrass the other person. What's the true ending of the story? Now everybody goes around the table, everybody guesses. And by the way, how much prep time did this take? About 5 minutes of me reading an inspirational story. Okay, that's it. And so everybody goes around, they get their ideas in, and then I say, well, everybody, here's what happened. And by the way, you know who guessed the ending of the story on this one? I'm sure everybody can guess. My wife, of course, Samantha legitimately, guessed the answer to this. What happened? The woman, the stranger, followed this other woman, the poor woman, home. She literally stalked her, followed her home in her car. Now she knew where she lived. Then the woman, the stranger, went back to her house, got the stroller in the middle of the night, brought it back to the woman, the poor woman, left it on her doorstep and drove away with no note. And so in the morning, the woman woke up, the poor woman woke up, and she sees this brand new stroller in her house. P.S. to the story, not part of Guess the Ending, but P.S. to the story, the woman, the two ladies actually bumped into each other 14 years later. True story about Jewish people. They ran into each other 14 years later, and the poor woman said to this stranger, she said, I recognize you. She said, you did it, didn't you? You brought me that stroller. And they embraced, and she said, absolutely. Here's the point. It's a feel-good story. Everybody loves it. The kids had a great time trying to figure out how the woman snuck in there and got her the stroller. And at the same time, they're learning the lesson subliminally, how to do a chesed altruistically for somebody else without them even knowing about it, just for the sake of helping other people. That's lesson number 2, or practical game number 2. Finish the ending of the story. Rabbi Laredo,
and can you give us a couple tips or a couple references of some, like you said, as easy it is to read a story in 5 minutes, but how easy is it to find a book that you're going to actually follow in that story? So you want to have a couple examples of some books you could recommend?
There are a whole slew of them. There is the Touched by a Soul series by Rabbi Sparrow. He's got literally a whole slew of them. And maybe Rabbi Laredo, what we can do is together we can put together a resource list of not just books, but even free email lists, so that people don't even have to necessarily buy them. Literally, you'll get them delivered in your daily email. Living Emunah is one of my favorites, and I have it right behind me. I didn't even prepare. I've got them right here. This talk about nuclear arsenal. This is Living Emunah, volume 1, 2. They've got volumes 3, 4, and 5. Literally just came out. It's actually sold out on ArtScroll. I tried to buy it myself. It's sold out. They send out a daily email, free email with inspirational, incredible stories every single day. I guarantee you at least one a week you will find. But again, don't use this every week. This is just one weapon in your arsenal to rotate. So you've got your shy list that you're going to ask one week. You're finished the ending the stories, okay? And now we're up to number 3. We ready, Rabbi Laredo? Let's dive right in. Shout out to my mother, who purchased a game for us many years ago called Telltale. Okay, it's not a Jewish game, but I turned it into a Jewish game. And what I recommend is, if you have a little bit of a creative mind, you can take almost any game and turn it into a Jewish game, turn it into a Torah game. Now, one of the keys to this is to not allow the children to play these games their real way during the week. You have to make this a special Shabbos table game. My children never play Telltale on its own. They only know it as a Shabbos game. Okay, so that's one of the keys. You can't mix and match. It's got to be very segregated, so to speak. So in this game, they are literally cards. It's a deck. It's a whole deck of picture cards, no words. They are just pictures on both sides. And literally, I open this up, and here's what you do. You can choose either a theme, could be on Hakaras Tov, it could be on Hashgacha Pratis, it could be on any theme that you want to get across to your children or to your family, or you can have them say and repeat a phrase. And the way you play this game is that everybody, and you usually give it to the kids to hand out 2 cards. I usually hand out 2 cards per person, and every person around the table gets 2 cards. And you say, well, what do you do with these cards? Everybody has to make up a story, a short story. I'm talking like 30-second long story, okay? We're not talking 5 minutes. Nobody wants 5-minute story, okay, at the table. 30 seconds per person. You don't have to put on a stopwatch, but you get the idea. And you say everybody makes up a story in any order using as many of those 4 sides that you want. And in the process, the only rule of the game is either, now choose, pick it however you want, either A, come up with a phrase that you must incorporate into your story. For example, Gamzu Latova. You must say the words Gamzu Latova somehow, some way in the story that you make up, or make the theme. The theme of your story has to be about Hakara Satova, about gratitude. Again, pick it however you want. The idea is you're training the brain in a fun, happy, pleasant environment to further it in a proper way. So here's an example. Rabbi Laredo, I'm going to hand you 2 cards. I'm going to hand you these 2 cards over here. Okay, here you go. Don't worry, everybody. We figured this out beforehand. Rabbi Laredo, I'm handing you 2 cards. We're going to play together. Everybody around the table gets one. I've got these cards. And here is my story. And by the way, I promise everybody, I didn't cherry pick these. I literally picked these off the top of the deck. Yes, I prepared the story ahead of time. Okay, I didn't just do it on the spot, but I didn't cherry pick them. I just picked them up off the top to give you an example. Okay, just use a little bit of a creative mind. So here we go. So the rule is, the only rule of this game from my table this week is, in your story, you must say the words Gamzu Latova. Okay, I woke up in the morning and I took a shower and I was starting my day very happy. I went downstairs and I was eating breakfast. I said my brachas and it was tasting delicious. I was thanking Hashem. Everything was going as I expected. But then I went to my computer and lo and behold, I found out that I was hacked and all of my information was stolen by a bad guy. And I was about to go crazy. I was about to turn into the rage monster and start slamming things. But instead, I said Gamzu Latova because I know Hashem controls everything. End of story. That's it. And so I just came up with a creative story. I incorporated Gamzu Latova, and I probably taught my family, at least I hope I taught my family, that in the event that I could get upset about something that's very real to me, my computer getting hacked, my information got stolen, a bad guy stole my money, it's natural to want to get upset, but I'm going to pull myself back, and I'm going to say Hashem controls everything, and I say Gamzu Latova. Okay, Rabbi Laredo, are you prepared for your story?
All right, let me see the 2. You gave me 2 cards, so... All right, does everyone see my cards? This is the first card, these 2. Then I got the second card, this one, and this one. All right, so super quick, didn't really think too much of it. So I went to visit my grandma. I don't want to insult anyone. Okay, my great-grandma, and her dentures fell out of her window at the beach into the ocean. And I said, that's not enough to get me to actually run and jump into the ocean to go find them. So, well, my favorite teddy also fell out the window. And that also fell into the ocean. So I said, okay, now I got 2 good reasons to jump into the ocean. So I did. So I was going into the ocean, I found it, and lo and behold, this buddy came over and he was chasing me. What was I supposed to do? I got very, very scared. So I ran, but lo and behold, because that shark came and pushed me to a certain direction, that brought me to get this. It was found right there on the beach. And that was Gamzu Latova. Thank God that the dentures, and not only the dentures, but the teddy bear came, and the shark was there purposely, perfect position to give me this. Is that a good time?
I loved it. I loved it. Now look at the creativity. Now, the reason that this game is so much fun for both adults and children is because, by the way, when you play this, you as the leader have to start out because you got to show people how to do this. So the same way I just showed you, make sure you come to the table prepared ahead of time. You can cherry pick. It's okay for yourself the first time. Make sure you've got it all planned out. So because it's going to take everybody a minute or 2 to get acclimated. I mean, in my house, everybody knows how to play. But when we have a guest, we have to walk very slowly through it and make sure that everybody understands it. Again, this is fun because it promotes creativity. The adults like to get sometimes a little bit interesting with the way their creativity.
But the kids also, it's really amazing.
Absolutely. It promotes creativity. It gets a lesson across. Everybody's having fun. And once, this is the key, once the children see the adults doing it, the children will naturally follow. So again, if you're doing this for the first time, make the adults go first. That will be the domino effect for them, the children, and the children are gonna see the parents and the adults acting in this quote unquote goofy, funny, silly, creative way. They're not used to seeing them like that. It's gonna start to promote things. Okay, so that's game number 3.
Great, Van. Well, obviously with the good lesson, like you said, and hopefully you'll be able to share them, maybe an Amazon link to Telltale. I've never heard of that game before, so maybe we'll share it with everybody.
Absolutely. And by the way, it could be any cards that have pictures on them. Obviously, it doesn't have to be this, but this is fun because it was literally designed and created to be creative and tell stories. That was the original intent of the game. I just put a Torah spin on it, but that was the intent. But again, it could work with any cards or any pictures, print them out, whatever. Okay, moving on to game number 4. We okay to do that? Game number 4 is called the headbands game. Now, this one, I warn you, up until this point, the Shaila of the week, finish the ending of the story, the telltale, this is about 5 minutes to 10 minutes of preparation a week. Very, very limited, very easy. The next one is probably about a 30-minute prep time. So obviously, you're not doing it every week. I don't encourage you to do any of these every week. As I said before, this is about a 30-minute prep time, but I want to share this with you. I actually had a prominent rabbi, who I won't mention by name because I don't have his permission to say this. I had a prominent rabbi at some point over the last number of years be at my house for Shabbos, literally playing this game that, by the way, after I had done it several times, my children actually made the game themselves. Here's how to play it. It's called headbands, okay? Basically, what you're going to do is you're going to go through the Parsha ahead of time. You're going to make sure that you know the Parsha and that hopefully there are things that common things that people will know. Can you do it on every Parsha? No, because not every Parsha is easy to grasp and know all of the concepts. But certainly some of the major storylines, whether it's Moshe taking the Jews out of Egypt or this week's Parsha with Miriam speaking Lashon Hara about Moshe to her brother Aaron and getting tzoras. Things of that are more commonly known, more easier to digest. You go through the Parsha ahead of time. You come up with a series of words that are nouns, basically people, places, or things that are very easy to guess that have something to do with the Parsha. And then you write a whole bunch of questions to guess who they are. So for example, here's an example, and I did this ahead of time. This week's Parsha has that story that I just mentioned about Miriam speaking Lashon Hara and getting the tzoras. So here I wrote the word tzoras on a piece of paper. I'm going to put it on the headband.
And you want to just tell everyone, for all the English speakers, what tzoras is?
Yes. It's an affliction, a skin affliction that is sometimes called
I didn't mean to put you on the point with the hard word.
I appreciate it. No, you're absolutely right, Rabbi Laredo. It is sometimes known as leprosy, but often I think it is mistaken for that because it is not actually leprosy. It is a skin affliction that a person gets. It can go on clothing. It can go on the home. And there's a whole long discussion that we're not going to get into right now. But the point is, it's a skin affliction. Miriam, and again, not to get into the details of the Parsha, but Miriam spoke Lashon Hara in this week's Parsha about her brother Moshe. She spoke that to Aaron, and so she was afflicted with tzoras. Okay, that's all you need to know for the purposes of this. And that's all research you would do ahead of time reading the Parsha. So now I put the word tzoras, and I come up with a whole bunch of them, because this week's Parsha has also something called a menorah in it. It's also got Aaron, as I mentioned before. It's also got Miriam, and I don't know where that little piece of paper went. Doesn't matter. And so I'm going to put this on my head. Now, the key, of course, is that when I put it on, when you have, and I know I look silly, but you know what?
You look great, Chaim. You look better than before.
My family enjoys this. And if my kids are enjoying it and everybody gets to laugh, and remember, I had a prominent rabbi. I don't have his permission to say it, so that's why I'm not saying his name. But I had a prominent rabbi play this game at my house, okay? So we put this on them. They do not see. This is the rule. They cannot see what's up here. And then we hand them a list of questions. It's the same sheet of questions that every person gets to read. Of course, every person is going to be wearing something different and getting a different word, not all at the same time, okay? So everybody around the table can see that it says tzoras, but the person who's reading the questions has no idea. So now, Rabbi Laredo, can I share my screen? I should be able to, right?
Yes.
Okay, so can everybody see this document? Can everybody see that?
Yes, we see it.
Okay, great. So you see, and you could see me right in the background, hopefully. So you see over here the questions to put on a piece of paper. And I make these big, bold questions. And again, it's about a 30-minute prep time. Am I a person? Am I a holiday? And then everybody around the tables, am I a person? No. Am I a holiday? No. Do I go inside the Mishkan? No. Do I have stems? No. Do I come from speaking Lashon Hara? Yes. Am I gold? No. Am I there to give somebody a second chance? That's Pesach Sheni, by the way. Did I speak Lashon Hara, referring to Miriam? Did I listen to Lashon Hara, referring to Aaron? And then the person has to guess who they are. Now, here's something interesting. You can get very creative with this. And when it becomes Aaron, I want everybody to appreciate this. When it gets to Aaron, okay, now I'm Aaron as another person around the table, and I read these exact same list of questions. Now listen to this. Am I a person? Yes. Am I a holiday? No. Do I go inside the Mishkan?
Yes.
Aaron went inside the Mishkan. Do I have stems? No. Do I come from speaking Lashon Hara? No. Am I gold? No. All the way down, did I listen to Lashon Hara? Yes. So now, Aaron, really, there are several questions that could answer the same one. And by the way, the same idea with menorah. And again, it just fell down, but I just had the piece of paper. I know I look silly here. I had the piece of paper.
Chaim, you look great, better than ever.
Yeah, there you go. I had the word that said menorah on it. And again, look at the questions. Am I a person? No. Am I a holiday? No. Do I go inside the Mishkan? Yes. Do I have stems?
Yes.
Yes. A little bit lower. Am I gold? Yes. And so those are the hints to give you and basically become, let me just turn this off over here. Stop share. Those are the hints of what the person becomes. Again, it requires a little bit more of preparation. Nobody's going to deny that. It takes about a 30-minute prep time. But if you come up with, and it takes a little practice, but you come up with key nouns, people, places, or things in the Parsha, and you use questions like that. Am I a person? I purposely put it on the screen so that you could go back and watch the video later and mimic some of those questions. They're always going to be, am I
well, we could use this. We could use this week. This is perfect. You did our 30 minutes for us over here.
Right, exactly. And obviously you would add more to them. And however many people you have around the table, that's how many words and or how many questions you would prepare. And again, get creative with it. Add some questions that could apply to both the Mishkan and to Aaron, right? To Aaron and to the menorah, right? Did he go into the Mishkan? Do I go in the Mishkan? Things like that. And so it gets people thinking and it becomes extremely interesting. Again, after doing this several times, my children literally came up with the questions on their own. Now, were they perfect? Were they brilliant questions? You know, some of them were deep, and some of them were like, okay, you know, we could figure it out. But the adults don't care. They're finding this enjoyable. They're finding it interesting, and everybody's learning something. Because what happens when this starts? All of a sudden, there's conversations that ensue. Wait a minute. The menorah had 7 stems. Why was it different than the Hanukkah menorah? And everybody starts having conversation about things you didn't even anticipate. But the best part, they're good conversations. They're productive and meaningful conversations. And that's the most important. Okay, Rabbi Laredo, we ready for number 5?
We are ready, and we are so excited to hear because we've already had so many great ideas. It's so much fun. I want to hear some more.
All right, number 5 also takes a little bit of preparation, but not as detailed. This is one of the fan favorites of my house that I started with many years ago. Let me think, it's got to be at least 5 years ago that we've been doing this game in particular. It must be something that you know that your children are knowledgeable about. So even if it means picking up their Parsha sheets and seeing what they learned in school, or knowing, just talking to them about what they learned in school, this is predicated on knowing the information in their heads. Once you know it, take any of the trigger words. So in this example on the Parsha, take the word menorah, take the word Aaron, take the word soras, whatever they are, just write that word as is on a paper, put it underneath the plate ahead of time. And when everybody goes to get their food or put food on their plate, you say, well, wait a minute, I got a word under my plate. What's that? And you say, that's for when we sit down, you're going to tell us what that word has to do with this week's Parsha. And if you don't know the answer of what it has to do with this week's Parsha, don't worry. the 5-year-old will be able to help you. You could use a lifeline on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. You could use a lifeline and call a friend. He's 5 years old and he's sitting right down the the section from you. So the point is, you're making the kids feel good and you're getting everybody intrigued. What does that word have to do with the Parsha? Again, just another simplistic way to do it. Another Parsha game. Again, this one takes a little bit more prep, but is very well worth it. Going through the Parsha and come up. And Rabbi Laredo, I know you've got a sefer that you can help share with us, Torah-ific, in just a moment. I'll let you talk about it in just one moment. A great resource for the following game and following exercise. Questions and answers on the Parsha. If they have a lesson, phenomenal. If they don't, that's okay too. Whatever. They just have to be short and to the point, and here's why. You're going to create ahead of time a listing, and here's a listing of 3, and to just show you how short they are. Obviously, if you have a table of 10 guests, you're going to make 10 questions and answers with literally questions and answers, short and to the point. The first one, what did Miriam do wrong? Answer, spoke Lashon Hara. Question 2, what did Aaron do wrong? Listened to Lashon Hara. We're talking super simple, not complicated. Why are you doing this, and why are you writing it down? Once you have this, you use a scissor. Sorry, I didn't prepare one. Okay. You cut it in half. You then.
That was straight. That was good.
Right? I know. I'm probably not going to do it better the second time. Then you take the questions. I did pretty good. Okay. Okay. And I make sure with the scissor that they're nice and even. And I've got a question, another question, another question. And now an answer, an answer, and an answer. And I take one question with the different answer, and I put the 2 of these under somebody's plate. And then I take another question and a different answer, and I put them over a different person's plate. And then you guys get the idea, all the way around the table. Then we say everybody has a question under their plate, but you don't have the right answer. But somebody else around this table does. You have to figure out who has that answer. So you go around the table, somebody asks the question, and then you say, who's got the answer? And it creates a dialogue, everybody thinking, everybody's talking, everybody's learning about the Parsha, everybody's intrigued. And again, if you're thoughtful in making these questions, sometimes the answers can be simple. Sometimes the answers can be multi-pronged and almost fit the 2 different questions to make it even more interesting and intriguing. Takes about 30 minutes of prep time, but again, keeps everybody interested, excited, engaged, and everybody's talking and moving.
So what, Chaim, is that, again, just to clarify, every single person gets a question and an answer that don't correspond.
Exactly. So for example, what did Miriam do wrong is going to go with, because Hashem comforted him for feeling sad and he wasn't included in the inauguration. Those have nothing to do with each other, but they go under that person's plate. So the person reads the question and then somebody else has got the answer on there and they got to guess and go around the table. Who's got the answer to that question? And I think I've got it. And then if the children know the answers, it's even better because you're like, no, that's not the answer. So as much as you can facilitate based on what you know your child knows is even better, because then they're going to be super engaged to basically find the culprits of who's not saying the right answer. So that's another game. That's game number 6. Game number 7.
So wait, on that, Chaim, you wanted me to share Torah-ific with everybody. It's so funny how both you and I both got to them in completely different times in different places, and then we shared our amazing experiences. Torah-ific it's really called Torah-ific, like terrific. Torah-ific is a 2-volume set. I have it right over here. It's a nice slipcase over here. And there are, approximately 70 questions per parsha, all sourced out where they are. And I have to be honest, a lot of them are deep. And that's nice. You know why? Because if you understand the question and answer and the people at your table are at that level, great. So go with that question and answer. But if not, you could just dumb it down. So dumb it down. I'm just opening up to the week's parsha. Question number 4 is, why did the Jewish people complain about the man, the wonder bread that God gave? So all of you who were with us last night at the Zer Shimshon, we gave a whole answer. There's more answers over here, but you can just do it so simple. You could have, what did the Jewish people complain about? And then you can have as an answer to it, they complained about the food they had and that they had to only eat man instead of this. And another question is, what did they complain for? Like, even though it doesn't say it all here, but it just prompts you to the simple questions and answers. They complained for meat. They wanted poultry. They wanted watermelon. They wanted onions and garlic and all these types of vegetables. So these are different things that it's really easy to get all the kids around, and really, or anyone for that matter, into. So this is a high. Chaim, do you give a high recommendation?
Absolutely, because there are so many questions and they're short. Maybe Rabbi Laredo open just the page, just to show any random page to show people how short the questions are. These are not long. Yep.
You have like 4 questions over here, 4 questions here with some answers, quick, short paragraphs. You got another 5 on this side. You knocked out 9, 10 questions in a full page over here.
Excellent. And literally there's about 70, like Rabbi Laredo said, maybe 70, 60, 70, 80 questions per parsha. You'll have nuclear material right there, right then and there. So something like that is fantastic. Okay, I'm watching the time and I want to jetson because we're going to get through a whole bunch of more stuff. Game number 7 is something that I wish I could take credit for. I was sitting at somebody else's Shabbos table. I will not say their name only because I didn't ask their specific permission ahead of time, but I do want to give credit where credit is due. I did not come up with this. It is a beautiful, phenomenal idea. They did it with their adult children, and I do it with my young children. And that's basically empowering the child with what they are an expert in. And here's how you do it. The individual, I went to this person's Shabbos table, and they said to their son-in-law, they said, so-and-so is the chief halacha officer, and now he is going to share with us a halacha, a random halacha. And he did. He said a halacha. He moved on. The next son-in-law, he is the chief parsha officer, and he's going to tell us something about the parsha. And I said, oh my gosh, this is brilliant. This is absolutely brilliant because you're empowering, you're making the person feel good about what they are interested in, what they are an expert in. And just like you've got a chief executive officer and a chief financial officer and a chief operating officer and a chief everything officer, okay, you can make your children the chief whatever they're interested in officer. So for example, they can be the chief halacha officer and you tell them ahead of time, so-and-so, please prepare 1 halacha, not a dissertation, not a shir, 1 halacha, about how you do netilas yadayim in the morning, what the halacha is of how to put your shoes on, whatever it is, whatever they're interested in, that's halacha. Parsha, say 1 tiny, short, little thing on the parsha. You tell them you're the chief parsha officer. You're telling us something at the table about the parsha.
So do you tell them beforehand, Chaim, before the Shabbos meal?
Yes, before Shabbos starts, before the meal. But again, something that comes naturally and easy to them, not something that they have to research. This is not a research paper. This is something that's natural to them. How about seeing Hashem in nature? There are certain children who love animals. So why don't you tell us something that where you see that only Hashem could have created this animal, the wings on a bird. There's no way that it's man-made. That bird is not man-made. Tell us about the functions of the wings, whatever they know about. You're the chief Hashem in nature officer, okay? The chief animal officer, whatever it is, the chief Gedolim officer, the chief Musar officer. Anything that they're interested in, make them the chief officer. Because now we talked about investment ahead of time. They come to the table invested, ready to say something they're interested in. They feel good because they know something that nobody else knows. And they feel empowered and they're tasting the sense of success. Very quickly, I was listening to the Torah and Masorah convention just a couple of days ago. And one of the points that was made so amazingly was that every child excels at something. Some children excel at more things than others, but every child excels at something. Our job as parents and as educators is to find that something and to exploit it and to show them how wonderful, how impressive it is. Because when they taste the sense of success in that small little area that they're an expert in, it's going to motivate them to want to try in other areas that they may not necessarily be good in. My Zaidi Oliver Shalom used to always say, Chaim, if you don't want to work a day in your life, find something you like to do. And he's right. You don't work a day in your life if you find something you like to do. Well, guess what? Your kid is not going to think that it's a burden for them to come up with something if it's something they're naturally interested in. It's just the way it works. So again,
so true. Amazing.
Underline, fill in the blank, officer. Chief Gedolim officer, tell a story about a Gadol. Chief Halacha officer, I would probably be the Chief Gedolim officer, right? Because I like telling stories about Gedolim. Chief Halacha officer, Chief Parsha officer, Chief Gemara officer, right? I would not be the Chief Gemara officer. I do like learning Gemara, but my brain is not as good as that in something else. Okay, but Baruch Hashem, I'm able to tell the stories about Gedolim. Phenomenal. I found something that I like and that I'm good at. It motivates me to do other things. I'm using me as a personal example. Fantastic. That is the chief underline officer. Okay, Rabbi Laredo, move on. We're good. Scrabble, bananagrams. We all have these games. They have little letters. Take those letters. This takes zero prep work. Put one letter under everybody's plate and ask the question, what word starts with that letter that has to do with this week's Parsha? Real simple. And if nobody knows the Parsha, then what word starts with your letter that has to do with the theme of Hakaras Hatov or Gamzu Latova? Think of a word that begins with that letter that has to do with the theme, with the Parsha, etc. Very easy, no prep work required. Boom, it's something interesting. Next game, and again, I'm moving a little bit fast here. The Telepathic Dvar Torah. This is one of my ones that I made up on the spot. Sometimes we have children that come home with all these Parsha sheets. Sometimes, in an ideal world, they all want to say it, but they're all screaming. How do you manage it? Say, give me your Parsha sheets ahead of time. You look at their Parsha sheets. You legitimately read them. Don't be a fraud on this, okay? Forensic accountant here. Don't be a fraud. You read them, okay? And then you say to them, I'm thinking of one Dvar Torah. I'm not telling you whose it is, but I'm thinking of something that's on these sheets. Start going around and everybody gets to say one little thing that's on your Parsha, and I'll let you know at the very end if that's what I'm thinking about. It sounds crazy, but guess what? It works. If the kids are already interested in wanting to say stuff, again, you have to know your children, you have to know your audience, you have to know who's the guest, you have to know, but that's another one that can work. Moving along to game number 10, special occasions, birthdays. If it's your birthday, if it's your child's birthday, especially if it's your child's birthday, if it's Bubby's birthday, Zadie's birthday, somebody else's birthday, etc. Everybody goes around the table and either A, tells them something they admire about them. That's a real good one, especially for children, builds their motivation. The 5-year-old walks away from that table feeling like $1,000,000 when he heard not only his siblings, but the adults and the guests saying something that they admire about him. That's number one. Number two, if they don't have anything nice to say, give them a bracha. Hopefully you have something nice to say. If not, give them a bracha. I give you a bracha that this year you should grow up and to be, dedicated to Torah and mitzvahs and have great midos, etc. Okay? Birthdays are beautiful because birthdays allow that time at the Shabbos table for everybody to go around and say something that they admire about that person. Other special occasions, yortzites, memories of loved ones, go around. That's a little harder, especially with kids who don't know who passed on, but it could be meaningful. Ask the Bubby, the Zadie, the mommy, the daddy, the guest to tell a story, a memory about that individual. It keeps their memories alive. Again, that's a little bit harder. It depends on your audience. It depends on who you're dealing with. Here's another special occasion.
Right, but you could do a wedding anniversary.
Absolutely. Yes, you could do a wedding anniversary. That's another one. Here's another great one. Post-vacation. You come back from a vacation and you have no time to prepare. And all the kids want to do and all you want to do is talk about your vacation. Well, here's a way to do it in a Torah manner. You go around and say, everybody say something that happened in the vacation and turn it into a mashal, into a parable. I'm going to give you examples. I'm going to give you 2 examples, a roller coaster example in Disney World and a hiking example in the woods. Okay, 2 totally separate things, but you'll get the picture. You'll get the point here. We loved Slinky Dog. Wow, that roller coaster was amazing. What park is that in? I think it's in, is it Animal Kingdom? No, it's in Hollywood Studios. And that was a great roller coaster. Well, you know what that's a mashal for? In life, you go up and down and you get pulled all the way around, especially during these times of coronavirus. You have no idea what's going on, but the whole time you're buckled in. And that's called emunah. If you're buckled in and you have emunah all the way through the ride, there's going to be highs, there's going to be lows, there's going to be pits in your stomach, but you're going to get to the end safely. Boom, just like that is a mashal. Yes, you as the father, as the mother have to start off, have to lead with it. Get your kids thinking like that. They will literally transform your vacation into a gigantic musar mashal. It's actually amazing. Hiking.
I'm sure after doing that a couple times, they realize during the vacation to start looking for those things.
Yeah, that's a great point, Rabbi Laredo. Phenomenal point. You're absolutely right. And that's beautiful, because now you're training them to see things in life that most people don't see, and to see beyond the roller coaster, and to look for the lessons in life.
Which knowing you for the 5 years that I know you, is something you do constantly. You are a living example of that. And spending one day in I think Animal Kingdom this past year with you was not only fun but inspirational at the same time. Barry, we were with you as well, and Carol, it was so fun. It was great.
We did. We had a phenomenal time seeing Hashem through the park, and really amazing. So another example, hiking. The hiking trip was amazing, and even though it was hard work to go up that trail, walking up that steep mountain was so hard, the view at the end was so beautiful. That's a mashal for life. Life ain't easy. It's not easy. It's a mountain hike. It's hard. But if you keep at it and you go and you stay hydrated with water, aka Torah, throughout that journey, you get to the top. It's a beautiful view. Life looks beautiful. It's not easy, but it's beautiful. So again, just an idea. You as the parent have to take the lead in showing your children how to do this. But that's, again, just another idea. Okay, Rabbi Laredo, I am going to just make one more comment about the meal, and then I want to move very quickly into Zmiros and finish up the last part of this. Okay, there are so many more games. We could do a whole nother session on games. Hopefully we've given you a flavor. If you need incentives to get your kids interested in any of these games, give them little chocolates, give them little candies. I don't suggest starting that way, because once you start, it's very hard to dial it back. So try to do it without it. Make this organic, make this natural. If it doesn't work at the beginning, keep trying. Try a different game. Not every game is a home run hit for every family. Everybody's got to know your unique circumstances. Choose one of those games, not two, not three, one of the games each meal, and then rotate them. Do not do the two in a row each week, okay? 2 weeks in a row. Make sure you rotate them. It keeps it interesting. It keeps it exciting. Okay?
Fine question. At what point do you actually do the game? So you did Hamotzi. You opened up. You opened up with your question. Yep. You got everyone involved. Little.
Boom. Right into it. The minute that everybody is now sitting down with their plate of food, when we talked about having that golden 10 minutes, 5 minutes of everybody's attention, boom. That is, do not delay. Do not wait. Go immediately into it. Maybe you'll captivate them for 10 minutes. Maybe you'll find that the conversation sparks, and now you've got them there 20 minutes, 30 minutes, or longer. You may surprise yourself. But the key is start it immediately. Remember the respect and the discipline. Nobody's eating. They're all waiting. The minute we're about to start, you as the parent, don't take the first bite. Let them say, okay, we're ready to start. They all start eating. Boom, you launch into your Shaila, you launch into the beginning of the story, you launch into the telltale, you set the stage and present that, then let everybody start. And that's how it evolves.
So everyone's eating their salads, their first course, all of that. Second course, just keep on going?
Correct. And again, everybody has a different style in their house. Some people do the first course, the second course, the third course. Some people, even in my house, sometimes we do all the courses together and we put everything on a buffet and say, okay, now we're going to start. So it really depends on the family environment, the family setting. The key, no matter who you are and what dynamic you have, is to make sure that you've got everybody's attention for that golden 5 minutes where you can launch one of these 10 ideas or so that we just gave you.
So wait, just to clarify one more time, I'm having a hard time with this. I'm sure if I am, I wanted everyone else, I want to clarify with everyone, because I've lived this, I've experienced this.
Yep.
Is your golden moment when everyone's quiet, is that you launching one of the games, or is that just a random question that you may give everyone a chance, like you said, to give an answer to, like a multiple question choice, like you said, and then that's over, and then you jump into a game? Are they two separate things or one of?
Two separate things. Before, the multiple choice question on the Parsha was when you were cutting the challah. So now nobody is speaking. So you launch that very, very quick question, multiple choice answer. Everybody ate the challah. They're eating the challah. You're talking that little piece on the Parsha. Notice we did that last week. You've covered the Parsha. So now when you launch into the games, they can or don't have to be related to the Parsha. They don't have to be, because you already did your Dvar Torah on the Parsha during the hamotzi, okay, during
So
the
multiple choice, let people serve themselves, give them permission to start, and then you launch one of these 13 things you gave us an idea for.
Exactly.
Good.
Okay, fantastic. And great clarification. I'm glad you asked that question. Now, I'm going to go a little bit quickly. I'm watching the time where we got to have a hard deadline of I don't know, 9:50, something like that,
9:59.
9:59. Okay, fantastic. Okay, we make that promise. Hard deadline of 9:59. We will not go surpass that. And if anybody has to drop off, then you can watch the remaining parts on the video. But I'm going to try to go a little bit.
And we're not losing anybody. We're only gaining more people. This is so interesting.
Okay. The next part are zmiros, the singing. Okay, singing can be inserted pretty much anytime, as opposed to the other things that I'm sharing with you very strategically should be done at certain times. Zmiros, the singing, the songs, can be at any time that there is a quote unquote dead patch. For example, somebody's got to go to the bathroom and you don't want to start the game without them. Somebody is getting more food and this one, and somebody's missing from the table. You don't have your golden 5 minutes that everybody's about to sit and eat, and you don't have those 5 minutes, and there's something going on. Great time for Zmiros. I'm going to tell you, I love to do singing at my Shabbos table. It doesn't happen every week. Again, do not force it. If it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen. The goal is to be to facilitate the pleasantness of it. Now, what
Lebedik, that's the word you're looking for.
What's the word?
Lebedik.
Lebedik, exactly. Now, what songs to sing? Yes, there are the classics. And by the way, we're going to send out links. There's a website called the www.zemirotdatabase.org. It literally has every song you can possibly imagine with audio recordings of people singing them. Classic tunes, new tunes, all sorts of things. In addition, there's another link that we're going to send out. It's from their Shabbos Zemiros made by URA, the organization called The Zone. And it's on their website, and they've got a soundtrack. I've got the CD. You can get it for free on the internet. We're going to give you the song sheets that they've put out there also. These are genius Zemiros and songs. I'm going to tell you why. They've taken the classic tunes and the classic songs. They've translated them into English with the meanings behind what they stand for in the original tune. It's actually genius the way they've done it. We're going to give you the song sheets. We're going to give you the track albums. You can listen to them, and it's even better if your family knows the tunes and listens to them during the week. Put them on in the background, and then, man, you start to launch into these. You got the song sheets. Print them out ahead of time. Everybody's got a copy. You start singing a tune that they're aware of, and all of a sudden it's a jubilant and jovial, and people are singing, and you'd be surprised. And even if the children are not singing, sing yourself. I can't tell you how many times I've done solos, but as they're getting older, I start to see them subconsciously, just on their own, starting to sing, not all, some of the lyrics along with me. Is it by chance? Is it an accident? Or is it because I'm the one doing it? I'm into it, and it's just naturally part of their habitat and their environment. That's Zemiros.
Maybe you want to share. There's two things. One thing I would think you should share with everybody. Maybe it's still a secret nuclear weapon that you have, but something that you've gifted to our family a number of years ago that we've used very, very often. Maybe you want to say a word about it, and maybe we could share that in some way.
Sure.
To everybody.
Sure. I wasn't prepared to, but I'm happy to now that you mentioned
it. Well, it's greater than everything else you said with regards to singing. So listen to this. I
appreciate it. Thank you, Rabbi Laredo. So something that I have come upon, I guess more by accident than anything else, is creating my own songs. And no, they're not as genius as the Ura, the Zone, because those really are genius. And that's why I steer you in that direction. Mine are either books that Svarim that I've learned with my children, or Svarim I've learned on my own, that I recap as a review what we've learned using tunes that you're mostly all familiar with. I'd be more than happy to share them. I'm not sure if anybody actually wants them. I've got extremely amateur recordings of myself. It's pretty embarrassing, to be very candid.
Chaim, maybe we could put it on a podcast, and so this way people could sing along.
And one as an example. Maybe we could do one as an example. I'm not so sure everybody wants to hear my not so fantastic voice, but
please, Chaim, it's from the heart. All music's from the heart.
But in all seriousness, if you are a musical, you can make your own songs, and I'd be happy. Of course, they're always open for me to share mine, but I certainly don't hold them out to be anything special. They're just things that I did with my family. But again, I steer you down the direction of the Ura. Those are really, really professional and amazing.
Okay, so one more thing I wanted to mention with regards to singing and the story. It's a super quick story, and I'm going to reveal one of the great rabbis' names and the other one I'm not, and you're going to see why it's maybe a little sensitive. One very, very, very famous rabbi that passed away not too long ago. I think it was 4.5 years ago, that is, Rabbi Ovadia Yosef. He had, or all of them except for one is still alive, 11 children. Okay, 5 boys and 6 girls. And a question was asked to him, how is it that each and every one of your children, along with his son-in-laws and daughter-in-laws, are all 100 completely, fully observant and religious? And the question was asked to him, well, there's another rabbi, and we don't want to mention his name because it's not, having successful children, as we've said in our first class, is not all based on the parents. The parents try the most, they pray, they do everything they could, but it's ultimately in God's hands. So they said, "Oh, look at this other rabbi. He had 2 children, and yeah, okay, the daughter is observant, great, but the son isn't. And so 2 kids, and he got 1 out of 2, right? And you have 11 for 11." So they asked Rabbi Ovadia, and listen to what he answered himself. It's a fascinating answer. Chaim, have you heard this story?
I think I've heard you quoted, actually. I've not heard it from you, but I've heard somebody quote you on this, so that's how I know.
Oh, wow.
Even better.
So listen to this. So Rabbi Ovadia Yosef answered, he said, because my Shabbat table, we all sang the Zmirot Shabbat together. Unlike other rabbis, which he did not mention names, that open up a book, a newspaper, a book, even a Gemara or a Chumash, and they're reading, or they may even have a stender, and they're turned like this. Can you imagine? There are some people, and I'm not criticizing, but the results are different. You have a whole table, and your children are there, and you're there like this, and you're reading. Or you just get off to the couch, and you're going and you're reading, you're doing something else. To the contrary, Rabbi Ovadia Yosef did not come to the table with any books. He came to the table with a Zmirot book, with his singing, and that he involved. So singing is something which subconsciously draws everyone together. And really, you're not learning anything per se. You're not teaching anything per se. What you're doing is you're having the connection of the voices, of the minds, of the soul, of the heart, which transcends almost anything else. Yep. And even if you're not musical, it doesn't matter. Your kids are not even gonna realize if you have a hoarse voice, if your voice doesn't sound good. Everyone's Abba, everyone's father has a beautiful voice to their children.
Yep. And Rabbi Laredo, to that point, beautiful story, phenomenal. I love it. To that point, the Ura songs, because they're in English and they translate what the message is, you get a double whammy. You get the singing, the bonding that you're describing, and the subconscious learning simultaneously without you preparing a thing. So again, we'll send those links out with the song sheet so that everybody can be familiar. And don't try to learn all of them. Choose one. Find a catchy tune that everybody likes and do one. Nobody should be overwhelmed by anything that we're doing tonight. Choose one, not all simultaneously. Okay, watching the time. I'm going to launch into dessert. Dessert is one of the best times at my house, not because of the actual dessert, although that's fun too sometimes, but because we know it is time for the Hashgacha Pratis story of the week. Everybody knows that. Every guest who comes to my house knows that. It is time for the Hashgacha Pratis story of the week, and I open it up. Of course, I'll try to have one of my own. If I don't, it's okay. And I say, who has a Hashgacha Pratis, a divine providence story where they saw the hand of God in their life that week? Now, once you start doing this, of course, at the beginning, you have to bring to the table so your children know what to look for. But it changes the dynamic of your whole week, because even your 5-year-old, your 4-year-old, your 6, 7, 8, 12-year-olds are going to be saying, wow, that was Hashgacha Pratis. Look at that. My shoe, I found my shoe under my bed, and I didn't think it was there, but when I fell on the floor and I didn't mean to fall, I found my shoe. Whatever. Hashem helped me out with something during this week. If people are having trouble remembering what happened during the week, have a whiteboard or a notebook sitting in a central location in the house. So when something happens during the week, say, oh, write down a trigger word or some little note to remember. That's what we're going to say over on Shabbos. Something happened the other day, and I said to my kids, guys, remember, that's going to be the Hashgacha Prata story of the week. And everybody gets into it. Now, if you want to take it to a whole new level, one of the things I started doing is writing them down after Shabbos. I have a little notebook, real short paragraphs. And at the end of Shabbos, I write down if I miss a week, okay? But I really try to write down the Hashgacha Prata stories that happen to our family. At the end of the year, and in my mind, the end of the year is by Pesach time, okay, because that is the ultimate crescendo of Hashgacha Pratis. And by the way, Divrei Chazal, our rabbis tell us you should tell over personal stories of divine providence at the Seder. I present to my family literally a book. It's become a thing in my house for the last 4 years. I present a book of Hashgacha Pratis stories that happened to us during the year. And then over Pesach, we vote. We go through and almost go as a review. This happened to Gavi. This happened to this one. This one happened to that one. We vote. The Hashgacha Pratis story of the year. Okay. And new to this year, we just decided we're going to print a t-shirt for the winner with their story written on it. Okay. That's brand new. That takes it to a whole new level. You don't have to do any of that. I'm just sharing with you creative ideas that you can adopt if you wish, but I strongly encourage you to have, even if you don't write them down, have the Hashgacha Prata story of the week from anybody at all times during dessert. Every dessert, the children associate the sweetness that they're eating and tasting in their mouth with the divine providence. It goes together and it becomes a thing, and it really is making an impression on their brains. So I'm going to move very quickly, moving on into benching. Benching is like the art nemesis,
Birkat
unfortunately.
Hamazon, just let everyone know in English what that is.
Birkat Hamazon. Thank you for the Sephardic.
Birkat Hamazon's in Hebrew also. Tell us in English.
Right. and the Sephardic pronunciation versus the Ashkenaz pronunciation, right? and the Yiddish Litvish way of saying it. The grace after meals, thanking Hashem for your food. And unfortunately, this has become, the arch nemesis for some people in their homes, fighting with the children to sit at the table and bench. You must sit. And if you don't sit, you're not getting dessert this week or next week or the week after or the month or the year. You see how ludicrous that sounds? Okay. You see how ludicrous that sounds? That sounds even tenfold more ludicrous to the children. Okay. And they know it's ridiculous. So it doesn't work. Okay. So we have to come up with alternative ways of how to make benching Birkat Hamazon, grace after meals, real and work for them. The first thing is make it real. And I started a custom that, unfortunately, to my own detriment, I never followed through with, but I do it every so often. And it's a great custom if you're able to adopt it. Right before benching, just do it seamlessly. Don't clap and make it an just do it seamlessly. So we're about to bench. Thank you, Hashem, for that delicious brisket in particular. Wow, that was delicious. Thank you for giving us the money to buy it. Thank you for giving us the wherewithal to make it, the opportunity. Boom. Shir hamalai speshu vadai shem, and you go right into it. All of a sudden, what have you done? You've connected the child's brain, thanking God for the food, something specific, to what you're actually doing in song and dance, so to speak, not actually dancing, but song and dance. And you're singing it, hopefully out loud. If not, at least they know that you're thinking, thank you, Hashem, for that food. Okay, one little tip for everybody. The minute the dessert spoon comes out of the child's mouth, don't wait. Literally start benching, because the minute they get up and they leave the table, they're gone. It's almost impossible to get them back. It could happen. It sometimes does happen. It's unique and it's amazing if it's able to happen. But unfortunately, it's very hard to do. So a tip is that as soon as they're done, you watch it as the quarterback. Watch and observe. And as soon as the spoon of dessert, they finish it, because you don't want to rush them. But as soon as they're done, boom, no lag time, go right into the benching. Another thing that we've done at our house, Rabbi Laredo has seen it and has heard about it, the Simcha meter. There is, our rabbis tell us that the more happiness you bench with, the more happiness you sing and say grace after meals with, it is proportionate to the amount of parnasa, of money that you will make. That is not a Chaim Hirsch. That is a Divrei Chazal, okay? From our rabbis, they tell us the more happiness you have, and by the way, it makes sense, because you're happy, you're thanking God for the food that you have. God says, look, they're so happy. He's so happy with what I'm giving him. I better give him more. right? Because he's thanking me. He's really appreciative. You know it as a parent when they're appreciative. You want to give them more. So we have something called the Simcha meter that we got at Office Depot with or Home Depot, one of them, with rulers and nails. And they literally, I think the whole thing cost about $4.50. They literally painted it. Okay, painted these rulers. We attached them to the side by the windowsill of the house, and it's got a little nugget bolt, okay, that you could probably buy for 50 cents or $1. We could, show a picture afterwards, and it slides across, and they make this simcha meter. And so it's got, red and green and orange and 50%, 70%, and let the children judge and say, how much simcha did you sing the benching with? Not the children themselves, but the father, the mother. How much simcha was at the benching? How much simcha did we have? Hopefully it says 100%. It's a novelty. It's a shtick. Does it work all the time? No. But again, you don't have to use it all the time. It's just an idea. Of course, you want to tell them stories during downtimes about how important it is to thank Hashem for our food. That is what gives us that great connection. And by the way, little tidbit for everybody. Everybody agrees this is one of the only blessings that is biblically commanded. All other blessings, with the exceptions of saying the blessings over the Torah, that is an argument, that's a machlokas, but everybody agrees that the blessings over the meal, over the food, is biblically ordained. Every other blessing, again, with the exception of the blessings of the Torah, are rabbinic ordained. So it tells you how important it is. Okay, Rabbi Laredo, I've got
the most important part, the cleanup. Tell us how to clean up
2 minutes
in peace.
And then the present and the surprise for everybody. So nobody sign off.
Everyone's a winner. Don't leave. Everyone's a winner.
Going to do this very quickly. The cleanup, the benching is over. Everybody has left the table or is about to leave the table. And you've got this huge mess. And you're like, oh boy, now I got to clean up. I'm the shmata, right? I'm the cleaning lady. I'm the cleaning man. Now I've got to clean up. Try this. I didn't make this up myself, but I use it every week. Somebody else shared it with me. It works geniusly. It's called the telepathic item on the table. You sit and you say to everybody, okay, everybody, I am thinking of one item on this table. Maybe it's the hummus, maybe it's the glass, maybe it's the bencher. Doesn't make a difference, but don't tell them what it is. And say, on the count of 3, everybody starts taking stuff in, and whoever, when the table is completely clean, whoever has the item is going to get a special treat. And yes, you've benched, and so you'll say another bracha. You get tiny little chocolates. We're not talking about big, big prizes. No Game Boys and Nintendos, other than being books. But no big prizes. We're talking about small little candy, small little chocolates, even ones that are potentially not so bad for them, right? With no red dye number 40 in it. And so you say to them, everybody gets one. Everybody gets one for playing the game that's participating, but the winner gets 2. And so on the count of 3, 1, 2, 3, go. You should watch the kids. They start, because everybody wants to know, am I going to be the one to get the secret item? And I sit there singing. 999999999999999.
One second, are you telling me you're not cleaning up? You're getting them to clean up without you? That's amazing.
Without me, I'm sitting there, I'm singing, I'm doing my smiros.
Double genius.
It's unbelievable. And then they all sit back down at the table with bated breath. I've got my chocolates. I give one to each kid. Say, thank you. You're all winners. Like you said, Rabbi Laredo, everybody's a winner. Everybody gets a piece of chocolate. Thank you for playing this game. The winner is, drum roll, please, right? And you make it a drama. And by the way, while you're singing, you better be with your eyes showing them that you're watching every move that they're doing, because they got to know, is this it? Is this it? Is this it? Is that it? And so there's building up of this drama. Sit down, and the winner is, and now I am not promoting fraud. I want to be very careful about how I say this. I'm a forensic accountant. I do not promote fraud, okay? However, I want everybody to know you have to be very strategic in making sure it is somewhat balanced. The same child should not be winning 5 weeks in a row, okay? So you can strategically plan that however you want to, but make sure that your 5-year-old and working your way up is getting to be the winner at least once in a while, probably, hopefully more than once in a while. You can strategically do it however you want to. But the point is, you've done it, you've accomplished it, everybody's cleaned up, you've sang, and everybody goes home happy. Okay. Rabbi Laredo, it's 9:59. We're like right there.
Wow. Okay. This was too much fun. We definitely have a lot more to learn from you, Chaim, and from your family. We are so thankful and thrilled that we had you. I'm going to share the gift with everybody with your permission. This is a gift from Chaim. I'm going to share this with everybody. Chaim's going to quickly run through it, like in a minute or two.
Right. And let me tell everybody what it is and how to use it. And we're not going to actually go through it as much as we are going to send it to you at the end of this, right? We're going to send it to everybody. Rabbi Laredo will put it on. It's
going to be available on the Google Drive. I'll send it out to everybody. There'll be a link in the description below to the YouTube video. Everyone's welcome to use it, to send it to everyone they know. And I even had a whole idea with it. Chaim my idea was to turn this into something even more, but let it go Chaim. Let me share.
So here we go. So on my way home from last Friday night, walking home from shul, I was thinking about the class we gave last week, and I was thinking about the class we were going to be giving for this week. And I said, wow, there's so much information, and there's so much, it's almost like drinking from a fire hose. I said, we need to give everybody a cheat sheet, something, a prep form, because right now I do all of this stuff in my brain on little notes. I have this all in my brain, but I need to present this. We need to present this in a way that's digestible for everybody. This is a 1-page preparation form. It literally walks you through over the last 2 weeks, step by step of the meal, the Shalom Aleichem to the Eishes Chayil, and the way that we all the way through, and it has little boxes for you to prepare ahead of time. So for example, when we talked about Eishes Chayil and we said you want to say something nice to your wife, right? And you want to say something personalized, you shouldn't be thinking about it while you're saying Eishes Chayil. You should think about it during the week. Well, here's a form that you can put a little note to bring with you to the table, okay? And you can see the tips and ideas on the left-hand side. It gives you kind of the bullet.
Which is basically like a synopsis of what we've spoken about in the past 2 classes.
Exactly. And then it takes you into the brachas for the children. And what brachas do you want to give to your children? What is something specific you want to say to each one of them? So you don't have to memorize it. Write it down during the week. Fill it in. And then as you go down the Kiddush, the tips that we gave you on Kiddush, it's there in written form. Washing, the Hamotzi, the question that Rabbi Laredo was asking before. When do we do the question on the Parsha, the multiple choice answer? Here it is. Write it down. You have one for Friday night, one for Shabbos day. Fill in the blanks. The game. What game are you going to play at the meal when you've got that golden 5 minutes? Here, the fish, the soup, the all of that. I literally put the synopsises of all of the games we talked about.
We have the names of the games over here, and like super quick what it is.
Exactly. And then you could write down what you're going to do. And if it's obviously something that takes more prep time, then you're going to spend that time. If it's, just the Telltale game, then you'll put down, I'm doing Telltale that week, whatever it is, all the way down to the Hashgacha Pratis story at dessert.
Songs, dessert, the prayer, the cleanup, the whole thing, all on one page. And at the top of the page over here, you could put which parsha it is. You could put the date. You could keep these away. You have some general reminders up here. Absolutely amazing. My idea, Chaim, was to print this out as a pad of paper and send them and, sell them or send them to people. So every single week you're building up literally like a repertoire.
Yep. And that's exactly it. What I would encourage everybody to do, even if there's 2 uses for this, right? First of all, it's to help you focus. It's to remind you what we spoke about for the last hour and a half tonight, the last hour and a half last week. It's a lot of information. This hopefully gives you a brief synopsis of everything, helps you prepare in an organized way. And then you can have a collection the same way that I have my collection with the Hashgacha Pratis stories. Even if they're just in notation format, save these sheets, put them in a notebook, in a binder, even if it's just scribbled and notes, so that you can look back and say, you know what? I gave my child a blessing to do X, Y, and Z 3 weeks ago, 3 months ago, 3 years ago. I complimented my wife on the chicken soup 4 years ago. Wow. And you start to see things. It could really, really be something special for your family, both in terms of preparation in the moment and something to look back upon years down the road. So literally, we just came up with that over the last week. I'd love to hear any feedback as everybody kind of digs into it, looks through it. Suggestions, comments, criticisms are always welcomed. I don't want to take anybody more time because I know this was a lot and it's late. But I appreciate everybody staying with us through the sweet end, not the bitter end, the sweet end.
It was amazing. Thank you, Chaim. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Really, really appreciate it. I'm so looking forward. I already took the quick Amazon links to the headband game, to the Telltale game, and we're going to put all this up on the Google Drive. We're going to send it hopefully by WhatsApp. It's going to be in the YouTube description. Hopefully everyone can enjoy from it. And just as a reminder, Chaim said this, don't over attack or overburden your Shabbat table with too many of these things at once. Like Chaim said, gradually start introducing these things. Choose one of the games, not more than one of the games. And also, it's also good for you. Not only are you going to bog down and be a burden on your family and your guests, but even for yourself. If you go from not preparing at all for your Shabbat meal to putting in an hour or two every week, you're going to give up after a week or two or three. You got to slowly break into this for yourself, for your family, and everyone's going to really, really love it, every aspect of this. So what we're going to do is we're presenting, Chaim and I, mainly Chaim, are presenting to you to like the ultimate, the best deal, the best goal, right? With everything you should have on hand, from the singing to the questions to the games, but start introducing everything slowly. Make it a part of what's regular at your household. Like going to Chaim's house for a Shabbos meal and not being bombarded is not normal. It's already normal at their house to have so many things going on because it's natural to them. And it didn't happen overnight. Like you've said, Chaim, you've been doing this for 15 years.
Yeah, no, it does not happen overnight. And remember the key line: do not be a policeman, be a salesman. If it's being forced or pressured, it's no good. It has to be sweet. It has to be pleasant. It has to be natural and organic, one step at a time. And you'll see how it changes.
We're going to have an amazing, amazing time. I wish everybody, Chaim and I are both wishing everybody an amazing Shabbos, a meaningful Shabbos, that you should have a great, great time with your family. If you're inviting people, depending on where you're living in the world, depending on who you're with, quarantining, the whole yada dee da da, jumbo, mumbo, jumbo, whatever it is. But seriously speaking, we are so, so, so delighted to have you with us, Chaim, and we wish you all a great, great Shabbos.
Thank you.
Even though it is late, if we have any quick questions, I'm going to give the opportunity to anyone that has a quick question to allow themselves to unmute themselves. All right, go for it. Chaim, if you have a couple moments, I don't know. Okay. All right. Anyone that has a question, go for it.
I have a question.
Yes.
How much do you ask the mother on the table to participate or to prepare, other than the meals, for content? What would you say would be a good, either to help the father a bit, or no, let the dad handle that? What would you say, Chaim?
Great question. The answer is, it depends. There is no one size fits all. You have to know your family, and you have to know the dynamics and what people's interests are. If the wife wants to be a more active participant, then she 100% should be. If she doesn't want to be and says, look, I'm doing so much already with the food and this, that, and the other, and managing the house, I just want to be, a participant and not an active preparer, then let that be the case as well. So it really depends on the family dynamic. However much the wife wants to do, that's what you should do.
I would add, Chaim, 100%, and I would add it depends also on the dynamic of the husband and the wife between themselves and between the guests and family members that are present. Sometimes the husband may be the more I don't want to say educated or observant, but in this realm, the one that maybe learns more or knows more or does more. So if it's the husband or if it's the wife, maybe they need to sometimes take the reign. On the other hand, right, sometimes maybe the wife's more into it, but she may be, God forbid, turning anyone off. May it be the husband or may it be the children or any guests. She also, and he also, everyone needs to weigh it out what's going to be beneficial. Like you said, it's not a form for us to be teaching and dictating and policing. It should be something which is helping others. So even with the right intentions may not be the best outcome always. So that is also, and those of you who are on that, I know I'm speaking quite direct and quite clear to some of you.
By the way, very important point, the husband and wife, no matter what the level of involvement of each or how much effort each one is putting in, both must be on the same page. So if the husband is trying to play this game, but the wife is not showing any interest in it, do not even remotely expect the children to be into it. But on the other hand, if the husband's into it and the wife feeds off the husband, okay, and or vice versa, the wife is doing the game and the husband is feeding off whoever is running it doesn't matter, but they must feed off each other. That's the key. Doesn't matter who's running it. Matters if they're feeding off each other. If they're feeding off each other, the children will feed off of that. If one is not,
right. I guess my mother, that 100%. And I guess my mother's question is let's say the husband is really, really working, from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. and he doesn't have any time to prepare any of this. So then, yes, it may be upon the wife, the mom of the house, to do some prep. No one's forcing anybody. None of this is forced, right? This is all if you want to build, if you want to add and grow with it. So then, yes, the wife should take that on.
And again, keep in mind, that's why on the course of the games, the 10, 12 games that we talked about, you've got a variety of older children, younger children, prep time that's literally 5 minutes and prep time that's 30 minutes. So, it's going to vary. And depending on your week and your schedule and what's coming up, and I can dedicate half an hour that week to the Shabbos table and prepare those, more detailed headband games. Or I got no time this week. We're playing Telltale and that's it, So
I have a texted in question. What can we do to engage our toddlers at the Shabbos table? If you have any ideas, Chaim.
With toddlers, they're really just observing. And it depends on how old the other children are. So when the oldest child is 1, right? So then you, of course, want to do you should continue to do the ritual. I don't know about playing the Telltale game because if you as adults enjoy it, but you should sing the benching out loud. One very interesting story, I heard that somebody was singing the benching when they were pregnant. And for whatever reason, out loud, they were singing it out loud. And when the babies came out, when they heard the benching, that was when they smiled and they just became happier. And it was really a beautiful thing to hear because literally when they are being developed, it is making an impact on them. So the answer to the question is they absorb everything. My 3-year-old is now absorbing so much that I never would have thought to teach him simply because he's observing and watching the 12-year-old, the 10-year-old, the 7-year-old, etc. So the answer is they are more observant, not in terms of religiosity, but they're more observant of watching what's going on than any of us give them credit for, even while in utero.
So you're saying it's easier when you have older children or other children present. When they're the only children present, it's very, very hard to keep them engaged at all. And again, it depends their level of intellect and your creativity to involve them. But again, not to expect too much from a toddler. And there is something really to be said, although we're not going to get into it now, about crazy twos, because literally a child in their first 1, 2, and 3, at least the full 3 years, if not more of their life, they just cannot control themselves. They just can't focus. They just can't. They're literally babies, and we have to have very low expectations in order that we're happy with our own children with whatever they're able to do in those first years.
Never force them to sit at the table. They're ready
to go.
Can
I add something really quickly?
For sure. We have Rebitz and Hirsch. Let's hear this.
I think just to mention that part of the being on the same team and both feeding off of each other is that sometimes one spouse has to take the hit and take the toddler away if the toddler can't sit at the table anymore. We have Baruch Hashem had many toddlers, and right now our youngest is 3, and there have been times where everybody will be in the middle of a game and I'll have to just take him and go deal with whatever it is that he needs at that time, because clearly sitting at the table isn't that need for him. So yes, he's starting now that he's old enough that he's picking things up, but he's also too young to always engage in every activity. So I think that's just part of the relationship in terms of tag teaming and understanding that the goal here, like what is the goal? The goal is that the children all be engaged. And so if there's a child at the table who's compromising that goal, then one of the parents has to step in to right that situation so that the other children can achieve that goal.
Perfectly said.
Couldn't have said it better. Thank you, Samantha, for tuning in. We appreciate it.
And Rabbi
Anytime.
Laredo, one final point on that, if the toddler likes to play with Legos or games or magnetiles or whatever it is, bring those magnetiles to the side of the table, not at the table, but right next to the table if there's a couch or whatever, something close by, and say, here you go. You can play. It's okay. Let them just literally sit there to hear the conversation of Divrei Torah, of singing, of what's going on at that. You're not forcing them. You're not trying to engage them. You're literally just keeping them there so that they can hear. All the more so that we should not be engaging in the negativity, in the Lashon Hara, etc. Because again, the same way that the Birkas Hamazon goes in, unfortunately, that negative stuff also goes in. And even when you have toddlers, when they are 2 days old, it's already too late. We should never be doing that, engaging it, not just for ourselves, but for our children. And you think they're not picking it up, but they are.
All right, I think we're good. Any last questions? Last chance, going once, going twice. I'd like to give a shout out to Mr. Barry Lynn, Chaim's father-in-law, who it's his claim to fame, right, Barry? Thank you for joining us. And again, I'm looking forward, Chaim, to spending another great Shabbos meal with you, with Barry, with the whole family. Really, really can't wait.
Okay. Thank you very much, Rabbi Laredo.
Bye, everybody. Have a great Shabbos.
Thank you.
Good night,
Great.
everybody.
Kol hakavod. Yasher koach.
I'm coming for